Welcome to the Inside Silverstone podcast, a business-focused podcast covering all things tech, engineering and innovation. Hosted by me, Chris Broome, a huge tech, motorsport and gaming fan, and also the owner of Longhurst, a firm of lifestyle financial planners and independent financial advisors located in Silverstone, Northamptonshire. This is a series of unscripted and unpolished conversations with leading business owners, thought leaders and high-tech talent where we discuss their experiences within the Silverstone business and motorsport region. We will also be asking them to share their knowledge, insight and their thoughts on the future just for you. If you're looking to learn more about the Silverstone high growth region and commercially connect with like-minded peers, you've definitely come to the right place. Welcome to Inside Silverstone. Welcome to the next edition of Inside Silverstone. My name is Chris Broome and I am your host. Today I am delighted to welcome to the show Luke Rust, who is Head of Commercial Development at Immense Simulations. Luke, welcome to the show.
Hello Chris, and thank you for having me.
Pleasure Luke. Right, as is customary, as I always explain this exact sentence at the beginning of every episode, I'd love to just do a quick education and career snapshot just so that our wonderful listeners can understand sort of your background to sort of where you started to where you are today. So obviously it's okay to do that.
Of course.
Right, I grabbed all of this off LinkedIn as I always do, which is why I always connect with everybody on LinkedIn. Right, education. And this really interests me because it's sort of local to where we are right now. So actually from a school background, you went to Stowe School.
Indeed.
Which is local.
Just over the fence, in fact.
Literally just over the fence. And Louise and I go there probably once a month with the dog to sort of walk as part of National Trust. Very, very good. So before I get on to anything else, what was it like sort of living locally in the area, but also going to Stowe, presumably like an immense experience?
Yeah, unbelievable. I grew up in Northampton. Had never heard of Stowe School, went to local schools in Northampton and had a great education. And then as I turned 13, I had the opportunity to go to Stowe on a scholarship.
Wonderful.
For rugby, because I played again rugby locally for Toastestrians.
Okay.
And then, from the age of 13, I rocked up at the gates of what seemed like Hogwarts.
Yes.
And just an unbelievable place. 95% boarding school, initially about 80% boys, and since they've got more girls in. But it's like how can I explain it? It's like being at university, actually, but from the age of 13, because everyone's on site, you eat together, you have sports together, you go all over the country playing rugby, and then you come back and you're straight into lessons, and but then you go back to your boarding house, and you kind of hang out with all your mates, and it's just, for 5 years of your life, it just goes so quickly, but unbelievable experience. And for that to exist so close to where I grew up is just fascinating. And the grounds are wonderful. Yeah,
beautiful spot. And so you used to play for Toastestrians,
the
rugby club. So I was there actually last weekend. It's St Paddy's weekend. So
nice.
they do a really good session of an evening. So, and when you went to Stowe, did you then stop playing for the local rugby club, or did you still play for them?
No, I still played for them.
Yeah.
So
on a weekend, presumably.
Yeah, on a weekend. So still playing Sundays when I could.
Yeah.
Although Stowe, I played on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and then I'll try and get a game for Toaster on the Sunday, because I still love the club, and actually they helped me get into Stowe.
Yeah.
So
good.
Still love going back there.
Good. Right, and so after Stowe, you went to the University of Surrey, where you did an engineering degree, and then the Imperial College London, where you did a Masters of Science and Sustainable Energy. Career-wise, just under a decade, worked in sort of 3 companies, doing roles ranging from sort of land surveyor through to energy consultant. And then in 2017, you joined Immense Simulations, initially as an engineer, and then in 2018 got promoted to Head of Commercial Development.
That's right.
So, for those listening who haven't heard of Immense Simulations before, or wanted to know a little bit more about what you do, who are Immense Simulation? And from a sort of catchphrase that I saw on the website, which states enabling intelligent mobility, what does that mean?
So Immense are a 3-year-old company. We're a spin out of an organisation called the Transport Systems Catapult.
Yep.
which is partly government-funded centre for innovation and research in transport systems. And the idea behind the company was to support the deployment of new technology in transportation.
Okay.
So we were set the challenge by government to help them understand what the impact of fleets of 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 autonomous vehicles might be in our cities.
Okay.
So we're applying some techniques from traditional transport modelling, as well as aerospace and defence, as well as some of the new gaming technologies coming through to build these large virtual cities and use those to test the impact of new mobility services and technologies in that world.
Okay.
There you go.
Wow. Okay, I don't know where to start with that. So, and what drew you personally to that?
So my thesis whilst I was at Imperial was to understand the impact of autonomous vehicles on the energy systems.
Okay.
So when you've got autonomous driverless vehicles running around but plugging into electric vehicle charging points, what changes? Why is that different? And how can we use that to help our energy systems as well? But I needed to do some modelling, and I'm not a modeller. So I needed to find a company that are making these sort of tools accessible to people. And part of what Immense is trying to do is open up these digital worlds to anyone that needs that decision support. So that could be mobility providers, that could also be cities. So it's sort of rapid feedback on what happens if we drop a new road in here, or a new bus service, or these electric vehicle charging points, or these autonomous vehicles. What happens? How does that system react, and where does everyone go? How do people in that system react to these new services?
And coming back to the sort of thesis that you wrote, in a nutshell, because I appreciate that thesis would have been quite sizable, what was your outcome? What was your sort of positioning with it?
So the focus was on policy,
right,
actually, and how government need to be proactive in supporting the rollout of these vehicles, because it could go very wrong if we're not careful. We could end up increasing congestion. We could worsen air quality in our cities. So policy guidance is required now to make sure that that's right from the get-go, without stifling innovation in this sector.
Okay. And so Immense Simulations, as you said, sort of 3 years old. Sort of a spin-off or spin-out of the sort of Transport Catapult. In relation to your own sort of growth as a business, has that seen you personally as an organisation raise money, funding to sort of grow and bring on people like yourself and other people that, individuals that are going to help sort of grow the business and create the future, as it were?
Yeah, we've actually bootstrapped the business to 24 people.
Right.
So we won some early R&D funds through the Centre for Connected Autonomous Vehicles. So we won a £3 million grant alongside another small company, and then Cubic Transportation.
Yeah.
And that helped kind of provide a baseline bit of capital coming in to build a team. And the founders and early employees then developed early commercial revenues to sort of support the R&D, but also then build the team around that. So I was number 12 into the company about 18 months ago, with an initial task of helping people use the tools. But since then it was, no, we're out of R&D now and we're ready to go and sell this and allow people to use this, but also pay money to use it. Yeah. So that's what we've been doing for 12 months. We've had a realisation that actually there's a massive opportunity here for us globally. So in order for us to go quicker at this, we need to raise some money now. So the phase we're in, and have been for the last few months, is a sort of Series A funding round. Okay. Which will help us, again, build the team, but with a focus on the tech team. So develop the products more quickly. Yeah. And start getting more people in the right places in the world. So we've just opened an office in the US, as well as Barcelona, and these are all part of our reach now to reach those customers that are waiting out in those regions. So hoping to close the round in the next couple of weeks, and then it should all go crazy from there.
Okay, so I've now got sort of 3 questions in my head, so I'm going to go through them sort of step by step. So I want to cover off what's it like going through a funding round, and I'll explain why in a minute, because that sort of has a crossover with something else we're doing with the podcast, which I'll sort of introduce to everyone now.
want to understand more about the sort of products that you guys offer. So, what is it, that people are able to sort of bolt into and purchase for their own business or for their own thesis, as it were.
Yep.
And want to understand a little bit more about sort of global. Sort of your global reach and offices, etc. So, funding. So, as part of a new initiative within the Inside Silverstone podcast, in partnership with the Silverstone Technology Cluster, we are starting to run what I've defined as mastermind sessions, which is where we're going to get professional advisors together, lawyer, accountant, banker, someone involved in sort of fundraising, capital raising, HR, whatever it is, financial planner, which is what we do, talking about a specific subject. And the first mastermind session is called Capital Raising for Dummies, which is where we had Tom Hayward from Foresight, Kirsty Simmons from EMW, Matt Lawley from Barclays, and Ryan Shields from Grant Thornton, all talking about the different ways of sort of fundraising and capital raising within a business. Yep. So that's a really nice coincidence that you just mentioned that. So what's it like? What's the process? Presumably you've got a trusted team of experts alongside you to help you understand how to do it successfully and efficiently, cost-wise and time-wise. What's it been like?
It's really hard. It's really time-consuming.
Yeah.
So our founding team at Immense are an academic, an engineer, and a scientist. So none of them have raised money. They're all unbelievable at what they do, but none of them have been through this process of trying to grow a business and raise money. So actually, from very early on, they have built an advisory board around them that have done this sort of thing and have gone and done this in other parts of the world. We've got a guy that ran a big VC company in Detroit, in the US, and has invested in similar solutions out there. We've got others that have built, helped support the Catapult in the early days, also built arms of Thomson Reuters back in the 90s, and has also built billion-dollar companies. So they have been really, really supportive. And around that, we've been working with Rocket Space in London. So we were part of a mobility accelerator there, but have since been on their sort of growth advisory program where they're working out how they best support SMEs with that growth advisory, because they have access to a lot of venture capitalists and they need to know how they best match people up. So they helped us with our pitch decks, they helped introduce us to people, and then in some of those conversations they sit in and make sure that we're well supported in that region. But for our CEO, he's had to be completely out of the rest of the business for about 3 months at least, and probably beyond that, just to really be focused on the next call, the next meeting, the next pitch, and it's really, really hard, and it's a roller coaster. You get a great meeting and great follow-ups, and then it will just go quiet, but on the other hand, you could have something quiet for months, and then it just flares up and it says, come and meet our investment committee or whatever. So it's really exciting, and we've always been quite positive about it. But yeah, it's
going in the right direction.
It is, yeah. But it's taken a lot longer. I mean, it's been we've been in a lucky position that we've been generating revenues for a while, so we can probably sustain ourselves as a niche product-led consultancy or something for the foreseeable future. But like I said earlier, there's a time limit on going and doing this very quick.
Yeah, and an opportunity that you got to exploit and get into.
That's right. So the balance we're in is do we keep pushing that back and trying to get a better deal, or actually no, we need the cash in the bank now to go and scale the business.
And what are the, you mentioned earlier that, that from an early sort of point, you created revenue streams from, selling or providing opportunity to bolt into your solutions. So what are those solutions? So, I'm a business, what type of customer are you looking for, or business are you looking to sort of collaborate with, and how can you help them?
Yeah, so quite often we've got two pools of customers. One are the cities, so we work quite closely with local authorities, and have been doing work with Oxfordshire for quite a while. We've also done some work in Greenwich. So they're one pool because they want to understand how the next wave of transport technologies will affect their city and how they best understand and react to that. And on the other side are the mobility providers, which is a very murky pool of different companies now that weren't traditionally mobility service providers. So we've done a big R&D program with Addison Lee, and Ford were also engaged on that because they want to understand vehicle requirements in the future and things like that. We've just announced some work with Bosch and Jaguar Land Rover, who are also thinking about how they best play in the new world where people don't own vehicles and there's mobility service provided and things like that. So they are the pools of people, and beyond that there's potential to offer decision support for individual vehicles and people travelling in those vehicles in the future.
Okay. Silicon Valley. Talk to me about Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley. It's got to be done, hasn't it?
So you guys, I saw your website before you came in. Also doing a bit of snooping and research myself. So recent blog saying new Silicon Office Valley has been opened.
Yep.
So talk to us about that.
So we had an anchor client out on that side of the US. And we had one of our employees, head of analytics actually, who's from that part of the world, and made sense for him to go back and set that up and work with our clients out there.
Okay.
It also sounds quite nice to have a Silicon Valley.
Yeah, sure. But your head office is Milton Keynes.
It is.
So keeping it real. So Buckinghamshire.
Yeah.
Concrete cows, love it. Newly opened office in Silicon Valley, where, as I said, you've got a member of the team who's from there, so it makes sense for him to go there. Locations in Barcelona.
Yep.
Japan.
Not yet.
Gonna happen.
Potentially.
Who knows? Anywhere else?
Where are we looking at? Australia, maybe?
Lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, and so which of these are you going to move to?
Potentially Australia, actually.
True story?
Yeah. So partner and family is Australian. So
oh, wow.
Hey, if this goes well over the next 6 to 12 months, and I can make the business case for doing something in Australia, then yeah, we could potentially take it out there. It's another big market for a lot of this sort of technology. So
okay, so we'll have to do a follow-up podcast at some point in the future, where I sort of jet off to Australia.
Perfect. Yeah. I'd love to host you.
We'll go and sit on a beach somewhere and sip pina coladas and do some surfing.
That's exactly what I'm going to be doing out there. So yeah.
Okay, fine. Let's talk about awards. So again, seen on the website, there's a couple of things here. I think one of them is a funding award, and there's two other sort of specific awards. So there's the Meridian Centre for Connected and Autonomous Vehicles, which I think was some form of funding award. So what talks us about Meridian, and what was this?
Yeah, so Meridian is a body set up by government to accelerate the deployment of connected autonomous vehicles.
Okay.
So they're focusing on several test beds in the UK where people can go and trial autonomous vehicles now. And they ran a program last year searching for solutions to a big data platform for all connected autonomous vehicle data in the UK. And we ended up in a consortium with Bosch as a lead, and then Jaguar Land Rover and several other SMEs. To basically go and build a platform where people can monetize their vehicle data through it. So any connected vehicle data can be hosted in that platform and then monetized to people that want to use that to accelerate their own businesses. And what we're doing as part of that is building a digital twin, initially of the West Midlands, but eventually, hopefully, scale the whole of the UK, where people can access that and test solutions in a digital world before they go and deploy them in a physical world. So that's a fantastic program. Great to be working with those partners, and it's something that Meridian and UK government will be shouting about before we go and try and move that globally as well.
Happy days. Okay, Smart Cities UK Awards.
Yeah.
So what were these?
So we've been doing a big program with England's economic heartland, which we fall into sitting here. So that's the region from sort of Swindon round the Oxford-Cambridge arc.
Super cluster, as Ross calls it.
Super cluster, that's right.
Yeah.
And we've built a platform where every local authority in that region can test the impact of planned development. So where you've got 10,000 houses in Buckinghamshire, you can test the impact of that coming online in 2030, you test the impact of that on the roads in Cambridgeshire. and that allows collaboration between each of those authorities, who all have a license to the technology to run that. And that was picked out by the Smart Cities UK conference as a worthy winner for helping all of these authorities be a lot smarter in how they plan and operate our cities going forward.
I think that's going to be needed local to here. So, the Toaster racecourse, dog track, they've obviously fallen into financial difficulty, and it's all been sold off, and whispers are perhaps that could turn eventually into more property, and I'm not sure the infrastructure here could support that. Certainly the town centre couldn't, so perhaps they need you guys to be going in and telling them what's what.
Well, that's right, and that's part of what we're able to do. And you sort of say, okay, so 10,000 people arrive and want to move to this area because it's beautiful, but they're all going to potentially have jobs or schools or other leisure activities they want to go and do. So let's test what impact that will have, and where does the infrastructure break fastest.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do that with the Silverstone track as well. When you've got events on here.
Yeah.
Actually, you've got however many thousands of people arriving, and we know, living locally, that the A43 becomes a nightmare.
Yeah.
But where else does that propagate through? What other roads are affected by that sort of thing? So, Buckinghamshire and Northamptonshire all have a licence to run that and test, but also collaborate around that. It's what's traditionally been done is they each have their own model of how they think things happen when they do something, but it doesn't spread any further than their boundary, and they don't then go and talk to their neighbours on how that affects.
Right.
So this is part of what we're trying to do.
And sort of life within sort of Silverstone Park, Silverstone Technology Cluster. So your business, Immense Simulations, is a member firm of the STC, alongside many others, including my firm, Longhurst.
Yep.
Why did you join the Silverstone Technology Cluster?
So I was very surprised because we went to the initial the ACES event back in December.
Okay, so the ACES events, for those that are listening, is a sort of special interest group where those involved in a certain sort of niche or sort of solution focus get together to sort of chat, talk, collaborate, discuss solutions.
That's right. Yeah. And the focus was on autonomous, connected, electrified, shared mobility and transportation. And because it was in Grant Thornton and because I'd heard of the SDC, I was like, okay, I'll come along and pitch what Immense do, and we'll have a stand and we'll see what.
Was that the first time you and I met?
That was.
Okay, fine. So, okay.
And ACES is I've got some slides where I talk about the ACES quite a lot, so I thought it should be a good fit. But I was also a little bit intrigued as to how the Silverstone Tech Cluster, how automotive focused or vehicle tech focused it was. But I was really, really surprised actually that how engaged people were in what we were doing, and actually everyone's starting to think about the bigger picture around just a single vehicle. Where actually when they start generating data, etc., you can do a lot of really clever things at the city scale. So it made sense, given who else was in the room, for us to be a part of that going forward.
What are your hopes for sort of collaborative relationships within sort of Silverstone Park and Silverstone Technology Clusters from that initial sort of feedback?
Yeah, I think, some of the other software providers would be really good collaborators with us as we go forward. I mean, where we want to get to is being able to support in-vehicle technologies. So we're going to want to start understanding how that can all piece together. Part of the fact is everyone's local, so it's very easy to collaborate with some of those folks. We already work very closely with Tomorrow's Journey.
Yeah, Chris Kirby.
I think you've had on the podcast.
Yeah, really good interview. Yeah.
So we've done stuff with those guys, and I think about how we help them roll out these services. So part of when I talk about enabling intelligent mobility, you've got folks like him who have great ideas that need scale and that need people to buy into it. Actually, we can kind of enable that and prove how that could work in practice and show people the potential impact of these services. So, and we want to be able to support everyone around the cluster to help them deploy better in the future.
Excellent. What's it's going to be a bit of a big, profound question, but your sort of thoughts on the future for mobility? Your personal opinion on it. So you're part of this, clearly great business. I was going to say immense business, but
Thank you.
immense in relation. But it clearly is. And working alongside the likes of Chris Kirby and many, many, many others, it's clearly just going to organically grow. But what do you think the future is for all of us? You know, we are all vehicle users, and have children or are going to start raising families that potentially may never sort of drive a combustion vehicle, may never have to drive a vehicle full stop. Maybe. What's your opinion?
I think you can see it starting to change now. I think new vehicle licenses are down year on year. Less people are wanting to drive because actually it distracts them from all the other things they want to be doing with their phone and other things.
Do you think that's a reason for that?
Partly.
Yeah.
Partly. Yeah.
Okay.
And now you can access taxi services. You can access Uber through your phone.
Yeah. Maybe the cost of running a car, you've got to finance it, lease it, insure it.
It's expensive stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So certainly in the cities. I mean, I live in London, so and we do have a car, but rarely use it, only because we've got a little one. And actually, it just makes sense for us to have somewhere to be able to transport him around. But other than that, I can jump on the tube, or I can use the bus, or I can get an Uber, and there's so many options now for mobility, which wasn't the case 10 years ago.
Sure.
So that's all changing very quickly. So I think in cities, hopefully you're going to see a lot more options, and then people are going to choose to travel in different ways. I mean, the automotive sector is struggling because people are then buying less cars as well. And the whole business model is based on, unfortunately, low margins and shipping as many vehicles as we can.
Yeah, and also just not changing them as frequently. I certainly see that with the families and households that I work alongside, and we as a business, when we're looking at their budgeting, every year, every few years, the one-off capital expenses to potentially change a car, that is happening less frequently.
That's right, and especially as we go towards electric vehicles as well, there's a lot less moving parts in those vehicles that need maintenance. Actually, the lifetime of those vehicles is going to be a lot longer. So that whole world is changing very fast. And then you've got autonomy playing through as well. And people make a lot of predictions around, we're going to have autonomous vehicles next year. And for a little while, there was a lot of hype around that, and everyone was racing to be the first to deploy. But that's all been pushed back. I was at CES in Vegas back in January.
What's that acronym stand for?
Sorry, it's the Consumer Electronics Show. Okay. So biggest technology show in the world, where previously you've got all the Samsungs and LG and Google and everyone showing off their latest and greatest inventions. But this year it was very automotive focused. Okay. So it was really the sort of Audi, Nissan, BMW show. Everyone's showing off what they're bringing to market in terms of autonomy. And I think early on there'll be some niche applications where we are able to jump in an autonomous vehicle. It might be an airport, it might be a university campus, it might be something like that.
Controlled environment.
Correct. So I think we'll start to see that over the next 10 years. And then if regulation and consumer engagement is right, and we get that right as an industry, potentially we can start to see that being rolled out, because for people like Uber and others, it makes commercial sense for them to be able to run those sort of services, which reduces costs again. So our cost to be mobile and to move around reduces quite significantly.
Okay, exciting stuff. I, for one, am very excited for the future. I think it's going to be very, very good. That said, I definitely don't want to lose the ability to be able to drive a vehicle, a combustion vehicle or a fast vehicle, whether that's in a sort of specialist area like a racetrack in the future, decades in the future, who knows. But very exciting. Right, God, Luke, we've covered off quite a lot there. So we've covered off academia, background for your work, what we're meant to do, awards, the fact that, global reach. You're going to move to Australia, maybe. Who knows? I'm teasing. 27 minutes in. I think we'll start bringing it to a close. There's 2-3 other questions. So before I get on to the final 2 questions, is there anything, whilst we've got you on air, that I haven't asked you that you'd like to talk about, something to do with events or otherwise, that we could cover off?
How's the marathon training going?
How is your marathon training going?
Terribly.
Okay.
I was on a stag do this weekend.
Okay. So you're doing London Marathon?
Doing the London Marathon.
Okay. You're just doing it as an athlete, or are you raising money?
Raising money for Stroke Association.
Okay, good for you. Okay, so there've been a couple of things. So if you've got a charity page link, you give it to me and we'll put it in the show notes. And also any other links you can give us for anything else that you've spoken about to do with obviously either events or anything else that may be of interest to people, to say actually How did they sort of, how have you been successful? What organisations have supported you with funding, etc., etc. So anything that we can include, do that. But marathon, okay. And so you run a marathon before?
Never.
Okay, but generally quite fit. Obviously, played rugby very well. You look healthy, which is good. You should be, because you're relatively young, or younger than me. And so, how far have you run so far? Have you actually done a full marathon in sort of training? Are you doing it in blocks? How does it work?
So I ran a half marathon 2 weeks ago.
Okay. How'd you get on?
Pretty good. Okay. Actually, yeah. But the thought of doing it again scares me. It's a long time to just be running.
Yeah.
But I'm sort of hoping that the crowd and the whole atmosphere will just carry me.
Yeah.
At least 26 miles over.
Yeah, you're not doing it in fancy dress. You're not doing it with a fridge on your back or anything like that.
No, not this year.
Okay. Well, good for you. Look, I'll certainly donate, and we'll ask our dear listeners to potentially donate as well. But obviously, make sure you keep yourself safe and hydrated. And,
for sure.
Want to make sure you get to the end of that. Embarrassing mistakes. I love this question. Everybody hates it that I ask, but I think it's important to break down the barriers, to show the human behind everybody, to say, look, has there been anything ever in Luke's life, work-wise, professionally, that's been a little bit embarrassing that we could potentially all laugh at and go, there's a lesson in there, perhaps? Is there something that Luke Rust would be prepared to share with us?
I've been thinking about this because I thought you might ask this one. And the only thing I can think of is I was as I mentioned, was at CES in January in Vegas. So being in Vegas, there's lots that can go wrong.
Yes.
And one of the closing nights of the event was hanging out with another couple of UK startups, which I won't name, for the reason that you'll find out. And we're all chasing funding at the moment, so we've had quite a lot of contact with VC venture capitalists out there, and so whilst we're out there, it's a good time to meet up with them. And bearing in mind it's one of the last nights of the event, so we're all just having a few beers and chilling out. And one of my friends is texting a venture capitalist and saying, hey, let's catch up, let's go for a few beers, blah, blah. And he's going, yeah, absolutely. Come to this club called Piranha. Mm-hmm. Now, Piranha is one of the largest gay clubs in Las Vegas.
Okay, did you know this?
No. So we committed to joining, and the guy said, hey, just to let you know, it's a gay club, but we've committed. So we're like, yeah, okay, absolutely. Yeah. We will be there.
Okay.
And had an unbelievable night.
Okay, of course.
Yeah. And I just turned around to my CEO and said, hey, look, these are the things I do. And this is
this is your commitment.
This is my commitment to the cause.
Yeah, yeah.
So, that was an interesting moment. But that's part of the nature of chasing funding as well.
And, But look, you had fun, good environment, a few beers, good. What a good story. What a good story. Right, last question. Yep. And then I'll let you go, because I know you're busy. We've got students listening to the show, but we also have clearly lots of other business owners that are still sort of developing and learning, aren't we all? Really interested to understand, clearly great sort of academic background, starting at Stowe, clearly because of sort of rugby scholarship through to engineering degree and then a master's. And then, ending currently sort of head of commercial development in Immense, with a very bright career ahead of you, no doubt. But if you took yourself back to when you were a wee lad, a little bit sort of more green, wet behind the ears, as it were, what one bit of advice would you give yourself?
Actually, the advice I give myself is one of the values on the board at Immense at the moment, which is simply have courage. Like, just give things a go, because if they don't work out, that's fine. You can try something else. We're young, and that's something I didn't know early enough in my career, because actually I wish I'd tried more things, and have been doing it more recently. But also have courage to believe in yourself and your ability. When I joined Immense, I was in an applications engineering role, but saw an opportunity to go and support on the commercial side, and actually thought, you know what, I reckon I can go out and sell this. So there's almost having that sort of self-belief to go, no, you know what, I can do this. Yes, I don't have 30 years experience in the industry, but actually a lot of these technology industries are being disrupted so quickly that there are very little experts out there now. So it's sort of, things change so fast that we all, as young people, have opportunities to go out and be at the forefront of a lot of these industries. So my words of encouragement are to have courage and to give it a go.
Love it. Luke, have courage. Thank you for having the courage for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it.
And being brave enough to tell us about the Gay Club, which is very good.
Yep.
And having the courage to tell us about your background. So, Luke, thank you for coming on. Look forward to seeing you at future special interest group events, and maybe afterwards grab a beer with Chris Kirby and co.
Absolutely. Chris, it's been great. Thank you for having me on the show.
Pleasure. Thanks, Luke.
Cheers.
The Inside Silverstone podcast is produced by the team at Longhurst for the benefit of those with a passion for all things tech, engineering and innovation. For more information, please visit longhurst.co.uk/Inside Silverstone, whilst also remembering to give us a 5 out of 5 star rating on iTunes. Please note that neither Chris Broome or Longhurst work for Silverstone Park, Silverstone Circuit or Silverstone Technology Cluster.